In this tutorial, I will take you through how you can draw lips either from scratch using a structure method or from a reference image. I will also show you how you can use tone to make your lips look 3D and how you need to add texture to make them look realistic. So let's get on with the tutorial. The first thing that you will need is some cartridge paper or drawing paper and a selection of pencils. I have here a HB, a B, a 2B and a 4B. You can use any brand of sketching pencil. The most important thing is that you have a variety of grades. I also have a kneadable putty rubber. You can have any eraser, but I will also throughout the tutorial be using a Tombow mini eraser, and that is very good for getting into fine details. So I'm going to start by drawing 3 circles, one at the top and 2 underneath, directly underneath. Now this might seem a bit strange, but this will form the structure of your lip shape. Now I would always recommend that you have a reference image to use, but you can see now where you have that dip shape at the top of the lips, that will fall within the circle at the top, and this will help structure your lip shape. You will also see when I start sketching the outline that the middle of your 2 lips, that will form, or that will fall in the middle of the 2 circle shape. So now we're going to sketch the outline of the bottom lip, and this should fall approximately around where those 2 round shapes are at the bottom. This is how the structure of these 3 round shapes will work. Now it may be that when you look at your reference photo that this doesn't exactly fit, and everyone's lip shape is different. This is just an approximate guide, and you can just go back and double check. The whole point of drawing any observational drawings that you should always be checking your reference. This is just a guide. So now when you've finished, you can rub these guidelines out, and when we are drawing portraits of any description, or if we're drawing a perspective drawing, these lines are a guide and they should always be drawn really, really lightly. So now we're going to get onto the shading, and one thing to mention with the shading is that you should be shading in the direction of the lips, which means that all of your shading marks should be rounded. Think about, you are moving in the direction of the lips. If you were shading, say for example an orange, you would be shaded also in a rounded direction. It would be worth, if you were struggling with this, maybe going and looking at one of my tutorials on shading where we practice shading a sphere, and that is a very good practice for practicing these rounded marks, because it is something that takes a bit of time to get right. So now I'm looking over getting all of the fine details right, and when you're drawing lips it's really important that not only do you shade in a rounded direction, but you capture all of those texture marks. Now obviously they don't have to be exact, but you need to show that you are capturing the texture of the lips, especially when you're doing a face, because you want to show the smooth texture of the face, you want to show the reflections in the eyes, which we'll come on to in a later tutorial, and you want to show that kind of bumpy texture on the lips. All of these things work together to make a really strong portrait. For the sketching stage, I am using a HB pencil, and I will use this for most of the shading stage initially, and then when I want to get to darker areas I will move up to Bs, 2Bs and 4Bs. At this stage it's quite important that you accent those areas and define the areas around the edges of the lips so that you can show that texture within the lips that is so important for defining them within the face. So now I need to add some darker tones, so I'm going to go in with a B and a 2B pencil. You may have noticed that when I'm shading, I'm holding my pencil on its side. That is called the overhand grip, and that is a way that you can smoothly shade your shapes without leaving gaps in between the marking. So if you want to learn more about that, then please click on the card above and watch the clip on how to hold your pencil for drawing. I'm now going to pick out some highlights or lighter areas with my zero eraser. Now you could use a kneadable eraser and make it into a point, that's perfectly fine, but I just find that using this zero eraser is really handy because it means that the point is already made for me, and it means that it's really defined and it's just a lot easier to use. One thing that's really important before you start drawing the bottom lip is that the bottom lip will always be lighter than the top lip. Even if it doesn't appear so in your reference photograph, you should always try and make it a little bit lighter than the top or more lighter than the top depending on your reference image, because the bottom lip sits out and it's more prominent. That means it catches the light, so it's really important that you make it lighter to account for that, and it will make it look more 3D. So when you have your reference image, have a look. Are there any reflections that you need to add? And that will give and add to that impression further. For the centre of the lips, I need this to be as dark as possible, so I'm using a 4B pencil. If you had a 6B, you could use that, but you need to make sure this area is as dark as possible to add definition to the rest of the lip area. Before you finish up adding all your tonals onto your lips, and if you are happy with your lips, you need to make sure that you've added skin tones around your lips to give it definition and make them stand out. So I'm just going to add some tones underneath with a 4B and a 2B pencil, and directly under the lip it will be darker, and I will also add some tones to the philtrum at the top. So here is the end results. They look 3D because I've used a variety of tones, and I've also used rounded marks, and this means that now that the lips look rounded. If I'd have used flat marks, then obviously that effect wouldn't have been created. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and please enjoy me for future tutorials including watercolours and colour pencils. If you enjoyed this clip, then make sure you check out more clips like this in the Portraits playlist. Don't forget to look in the description below for details of products used in today's clip, and if you have any ideas for content or questions, leave a comment below. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of future content.